So we join back in with our adventures. Now, I've actually been pondering this one. Are we calling us Chaotic Embers, or is that just the racer name?
I feel like that's just the racer name for now.
For
Okay,
now,
Like,
let's see if it
once
sticks.
once the race is over, if it sticks, it
Okay,
sticks.
yeah. As our maybe the Chaotic Embers have been going about the first few days of the festival. As we saw last week, Volu was having to overcome some of the lasting effects from the weaving contest. And after
Sorry, that was
This is-
lasting effects from the weaving.
from the
This is
weaving
why I wanted
contest.
to tell him.
No. What you're seeing right here, folks, is that Beecher genuinely has no clue what happened last week. So that will be fun. However, after collapsing, Volu was rushed to the Temple of Astera, and Dante made some interesting discoveries. We now, however, zoom back in time to the beginning of the day as the group were splitting off from Eechie. So Eechie, you just summoned your elk. You'd gone down to the market with them. You'd seen the stage area and like all of the stuff that's being set up, and then you'd broken off and riding on your elk. Are you going like full pace, full speed, or is it leisurely?
Not like dashing, just like going at full regular movement speed without like exerting.
Okay, so and I'm also going to ask for. I'm going to say survival. Because this is more you don't actually know where the race starts. You know
Yeah.
that it's on the edge of the city. You know that there's almost like the drive of the vehicles through parading, and then they sort of line up in the position.
Yeah. 22, 16 plus 6.
Okay, so as you easily make your way through the crucible and to the outer edges, you notice the sort of the buildings becoming slightly more densely packed. Still not massively compared to some places, but almost you're seeing more of the effects of the desert now that the proximity as you're starting to come out to it. There is less greenery. The greenery that is there is more. You can tell it's kept. Somebody definitely like maintains that bit of greenery that sits there. But you are now starting to get into that rocky grey slate like desert. And as you move out onto the edge, you do manage to spot an area that you think has actually been widened. And you can sort of tell that the sort of rocks that you're seeing are like almost fresher, as it is like there's not been any dust or wear on them previously. They've almost pushed back, and there's those sort of slight mounds towards the edge where you think this is potentially where they've widened it for all the vehicles to be able to fit in next to each other as a starting line. I'll say that can prevail for your following. So I know when we last talked, you were saying that you were maybe going to go just to the crevasse. I don't know if that's still the plan.
I would like to start off by what comes first, the crevasse or the ascent?
The crevasse. So it goes the plains out to the crevasse. You then go down into the crevasse, and then you make after at the end of that stretch, you make the ascent and then back down to join the city.
Okay. From doing like preliminary, just going up to the crevasse, do I see anyone else on the track at all? Anyone else scouting out?
The first thing you would note is it looks to be about and let me actually check this to be sure that I am not telling you fibs.
You'd never tell us fibs, would you?
No, but I do omit truths. That you can tell that it is about a 600-foot like stretch of open desert. and you can see at the very end there is this like it closes down. And actually, and if you didn't know you could do this, guys, if you're using Roll20, you can grab individual players by their nameplate at the bottom and move them onto individual maps. Very cool little feature. I enjoy it. So Eechie, you should now be able to see what is the basic layout. I did explain to the guys last week. It will be a basic track layout, but there will be there'll be blocks of color and such that show obstacles or closings. So you can tell that the track stays about the same width most of the way down, but right at the end it closes down to a 20-foot gap.
Liam,
So yeah,
just very quickly, that's really cool that Eechie can see the map and we can't. But that also means I can't show it on OBS just in case.
That's fine. I don't know because we're still just. It's more just for Beecham's reference.
Yeah, no, I just so that you're aware. That's good.
So this bit here would close down.
1 second, my computer's being slow as fuck right now. Come on, show me the race. Stop having a grabby hand. There's no, I'm not grabbing anything.
So as you can see that there's this large open stretch of desert that stays about the same width. And again, you're seeing signs of where somebody has definitely come along and probably using magic has like pushed it back so it stays the same width up this initial stretch. You can tell, obviously, this is the main portion that the people can actually see. That that they have talked about scrying eyes at points, and that there's going to be commentators and all those sorts of things. And you're imagining with the speed of this, as you're riding it, it shouldn't be too long of a lap, essentially. Obviously, for ourselves mechanically in combat rounds, it feels longer, but the actual fact of it is probably 2-3 minutes, maybe 4. If the complications arise. But this is the main stretch that people can see. So you can see that they've sort of cleared it to really demonstrate some of the speed. You can tell this is going to be a point that people really put the foot down. However, the blocks, you can see that the pathway or the racetrack sort of leads up to the mountainside and hits a 20-foot wide entrance that then dips out of sight. So you give me an it's gonna have to be if you're looking what are you looking for as you're coming up this initial stretch? You can run me just a perception generally.
I'm
but
mainly at the moment looking for
specific, then you will need to investigate.
Yeah, not anything specific on the track. It is more perception. Like I'm doing a scan for if there are any other people kind of doing what I'm doing, like scouting the track, perhaps people who are like searching or starting to influence. 17 plus 6, so that is a 23.
Okay, so you make your way up and slow the ride of your elk a little bit as you start to scan the ground and the area. You do notice a figure way out, like a good 100, maybe 200 foot out into the desert, and they don't seem like they're approaching you. They seem like they're on the road. At this distance, they look quite big, but other than that, yeah. And I would say that you can tell they're armored. Their shape is too boxy. The silhouette of them in the distance is boxier than it should be. But that is it. Like nobody on this track. It's like you would just pick them out with that roll. You're not really seeing. I would say that obviously you're looking through, and there are sort of, and you would gather that you would have to get a closer look. The reason it's hard for you to pick out almost interference with just a perception is there's loads, but it's the magical clearing that they've done as well. So to sort of determine between, that was a purposeful mound of dirt that's been pushed to the side, or is that covering something? You'd have to sort of get down and actually take a look, but you are seeing that this whole stretch has been interfered with from the natural order, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna leave this first bit of stretch as it's mainly the bit of where people see, and I'm gonna head into the crevasse.
Okay, so as you get to the crevasse, it basically makes an immediate dip into a fairly steep dive, and what you do notice pretty quickly, as you almost stop at the top and take a look in, it takes a steep dive, but then it's almost like it joins the main stream that runs through this stretch of mountains, and then follow, like you can see it sort of like, you notice they're not lights, but it's almost like gatherings of plants. And the thing that makes you sort of notice them as not just plants is they have like flower pots, but they are glowing almost like the cotton, not cotton, the ones that you blow and they like dandelions, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, dandelions.
The dandelions, when they sort of turned into that seeding stage, there's just like these puff balls that are glowing, and sort of you can pick out the track as again you sort of scan up the way, and you can see another roughly six maybe just under 600 feet before you can then see, almost like at this distance it just looks like a wall, and then you sort of with the 24 straining you can pick out the sort of zigzagging, because at this sort of plane it's hard for you to pick out the dimensions of it, and up at the top, and you're only sort of picking this out by the light, is there's like a beam of light that clearly exits out of the mountainside again.
Okay.
With that 24, you would quickly notice. So, firstly, your elk doesn't hesitate, like they get cautious, and you take a look around, and you're noticing a lot of what looks to be like bat feces or something along that lines. There's like on your right hand side at the bottom, there's like covered in like white and black ichor that's all over the stalactites and around that area. Taking a glance up, you can't see them. It looks like either they've been spooked by something else or whatever, but definitely bats have been using this cave system. Making your way further down, you will be able to actually join.
Before I get too further down, Ichi's going to go over to where, first of all, where the like bat droppings kind of are. Like, obviously, it's mainly like sticking to the stalactites, but where it kind of like comes to a point and like drops off, Ichi's going to kind of go, like, use their kind of like sword to kind of like shift like a small section of bat feces away. Gonna get a torch, light that, and then I'm gonna put that on it to see if it lights, like if bat feces is flammable.
You would check, and it doesn't seem to be. However, upon being this close, do you want to make me a nature or a survival? I would also accept. Nature is if you're actually trying to identify. Survival is more like there are certain things a survivalist could gather from feces, like how long ago it was here and maybe how big it is and those sorts of what sort of things it eats. But
I'll go with survival.
If you want more info, creature, it's nature.
I'll go survival, get more like the applications of certain. 8 + 6, so 14.
Okay, so you would pick up. It's hard to tell how long ago they were here. There's definitely no heat in it, but also as you sort of getting down to this bottom layer, it's colder down here just generally. You can, the streams rushing through, and almost as you can feel the splashes occasionally, and it is cold. So there's almost like that a sense of is it old or is it just cold down here?
Yeah.
But what you definitely do determine is that whatever made this, and you do think it does sort of evidence bat, but it's definitely bigger than your average bat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep that nugget. Thinking of the Aether Stream and Cinder Smoke, well, yeah, the Aether Stream vehicles, I know they operate off, due to my previous mistakes of thinking ahead, I know they obviously work off of a levitate spell.
Mm-hmm.
The way that levitate spell works, is it like they will float 3 feet above the ground?
So it's between 5 to 10.
5 to 10, yeah.
And you've seen like some of the skateboarders, and you haven't seen anyone in a vehicle do it.
Yeah.
Although you would have sort of seen it demonstrated with the platforms. If you if you are at 5 foot and then you drive over something that is very close to the plate,
Yeah.
it throws you upwards.
It will go up.
And if you can control that you've seen the skateboarders where they'll come up onto a curb and then jump away from the curb as it pulses to sort of give them then a 10-foot rise before they land and keep going. You obviously haven't seen any of all the vehicles you've seen are very clunky and
it's harder to get.
Whereas you have seen the platforms at times, they'll sort of bring it up onto a railing and it levitates it around the corner for a second, but that's a controlled. They bring it up.
The transition from the straight into the slight decline into the crevasse, the cave, I'm guessing, is slightly circular.
Yes, it almost overly shaped. And actually, you would notice, and something for you to keynote as you sort of look over the path. It looks straight down. If you join it slowly and sort of make your way down, it looks like a fairly straight, but it isn't. And you think that if you take that top section too quickly, where you would land at the bottom is actually in the stalactites to your right.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's, you know what I mean? Like it's almost just 10 foot to the left.
Like the direction slowly curves a bit. So if you were to take that straight trajectory, you would end up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there is what you can definitely see, like, okay, if we jumped and we were already ready for this, you could land it right. You could also, looking at that, if you took it with enough speed, you could land straight in the central river section. So you know that if it's hit fast enough, you won't risk the stalactites. But also if there's if you just jump it, you're gonna end up off the track potentially. And while obviously, interestingly, you don't know how stalactites interfere or react with a crystal, because all the times you've seen them do the bump up thing, they've moved the crystal over the object. So there's a level of if a stalactite is 5 foot, but the pin of the stalactite isn't on the levitate plate, you might skate down it as it tries to join the ground.
It could penetrate the armor rather than affect where the crystal is.
Yeah. Or even at least cause damage or throw them off balance. You don't think it would be a nice landing even for a skilled driver that's not going to crash from it.
Okay, let me.
Fully make some notes. It's fine.
Cool. So,
you would also see that the track for this section thins to about half. So about half of the width of the previous road. Right about now.
Sorry, what was that about?
Sorry, go on.
Oh, what was that?
The road and track for this section, and it seems to be the pathway down and the river way up is about half the width of the previous road. You won't know exactly without measuring as such, but you can tell it chunks in either side, obviously.
Wonderful.
And you would also see all this area is a lot more littered with stalactites and other style obstacles. It doesn't look purposefully placed, but just naturally, this area has some, there's boulders that have fallen over that side, and there's more obstacles generally on the path down here. And
Wonderful.
yes.
A little bit of interference then Eechie is going to make is at that lip where we go from straight to slight curve down.
Mm-hmm.
On the about there's going to be about 20 foot in the center that Ichi's going to leave as is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest either side, where it kind of like gets towards the edges and where the outer ring of the cave starts to form and where it starts to funnel more.
Mm-hmm.
Ichi is going to use their burrowing to start shifting dirt up, making it so rather than it being forwards and down, it's a forwards ever so slight lift and
almost
then down.
like a little ramp.
I'm adding a ramp, so there is a risk if the races are too far to the side, the elevation they will get from the ground could send them into the curving roof.
Okay, so you actually want it before the entrance?
Yeah, so like as it kind of goes in.
So almost on the bit that we're on now, if I draw a little thing, because obviously the 20-foot gap is basically the entrance.
Yeah.
So if you want to ping how far back from the entrance you want to make this little.
So this entrance.
So the blue on the right.
That's
is
the cave wall.
That's the entrance to the crevasse.
Okay, good. So in that case, the center 15 feet I will leave as is, and that the like 10, 13 feet either side I will curve, so that it's I can relay to my team we need to be precisely in the center, and we will have nothing affect us. Anyone else who's slightly off could fly into the wall.
You want 20 between?
Yeah, 20 between. So that then there's that slight.
But to be fair, in which case my side walls are on as well, because they need to be there as well. Basically, you're leaving you're making the actual people are gonna, and that's what I wanted to ask. So how far to the left do you want to put it? Is that fine, or because essentially you're extending the choke point?
Yes.
Because if you don't choke earlier, you're gonna hit
any last minute chokes is going to either flip or adjust their trajectory enough that could run them into the wall, into another racer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of looks good to me.
Okay.
Wonderful.
And I will put a little thing here that just says ramp. Just so I remember. Are you going to try? Obviously, there's a level of it being hidden because of the natural ground.
Mm-hmm.
Are you wanting to try and hide it further?
I'm not worried too much about this being mega noticeable, purely because of the high speed people are going at. Yeah, no, this should be all right, because obviously the vehicles are approximately like 5 to 10 feet in width. Some 15.
On the far left, there's the examples of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. So we mainly stick between 15 feet wide to 5 feet wide, like the narrow racers and then the wide racers.
Mm-hmm.
So that being as it is, and obviously their acceleration being a lot higher, that should be fine, because it's just late enough that anyone who thinks, oh, I can clear that.
Yeah, or tries to cut someone off from the outside.
Yeah, anyone who's racing risky will regret it, basically.
Okay. Anything else to this area? Or are we going
to this area? No. To this area, no. That's the kind of, as this is the main straight, I want people to think they're safe and just gun it and then get to that choke point. Obviously, we're going to be left in the dust, and that's fine at this point because I want to create as much hell for them in the front as we can, because we can avoid crashed vehicles easily. We've got more maneuverability. It's those who are going to be gunning it that we want to punish for their hubris.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you make your way
into the crevasse.
So you make your way down and further into the crevasse. You would find that it sort of, like I said, it levels out at where the stream is, and begins to make its way down in between the mountains. For this, it stays fairly linearly, like I said, about that half. Let me actually give you a distance so that I can, because the first section is roughly 150 wide. So it'd be about
150 fucking choking to like 20 feet is insane.
Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, there's going to be a level of like, and you would know tracking this.
I'm like, Eechie has a notebook and is plotting be center here. Like,
yeah. But yeah, that is the other potential problem, and the reason they've set it up there where everyone can see is actually this open stretch of road is going to be dangerous for attacks between players. There's a lot of open space, and actually, each as you're looking, if you were in the lead, you could easily, with the right range and the right spell, hit people at the back or hit people that are like making a move and cause crashes. And there's a very large area of openness here. As it moves into the crevasse, it moves down to like 70, 75 wide. But it almost more zigzags.
Yeah, I was going to say a little bit serpentine.
So there are areas on the fringes of the race. So if you're in the center, you can almost see all the way up. But if you're like on the right, you can't see some of the sections that are up the right-hand side, but you get a view to the left. And there's almost like that crisscrossing as you make your way up. So you think there's potentially there's potential in this stretch for hiding things. There's lots of it in the areas off the side. It's lots of stalactites, crumbled rocks and such. There's lots of areas for that sort of stuff. But you also think potentially almost like the potential to move out from cover if you were, if you're being attacked by, again, in that situation that the front guy is just pinging bullets back, there's potential to actually take cover in these sections at the sacrifice potentially of going forwards faster. But obviously, again, and actually in here, you are thinking there's a lot of room for your grapples because it is either side is almost like straight up cliff face. So there's definitely some potential here for like swinging around the spots and moving. You even see some areas where the stalactites have been crushed and there's potential for like going straight across. Again, you know that you're going to lose speed with the like, but if you've got the grapple and the winch and such, there's potential there. You do notice as you're moving through here that there are a number of caves and other offshoots, but they haven't been highlighted with the like glowing plants as these ones have, and they're just dark tunnels that lead off into different areas of the mountainside. You do know, Ichi, that you would have been told that. So obviously, the lore behind why Zikar appears in this mountain. I always want to say grows. Does it all grow, or is it
all grows? It grows and forms. Like that's
but basically the lore around why Zikar is grown here is that it's almost the after effects of Larixa. This is the site around, well, above the mountains is where she cast her spell to seal the energies. And almost the backlash sort of sent shockwaves of magical energy through the mountainside. And it is said that all of the tunnels that you can move through have been created by the streams of magic that carved their way through the mountain itself. Even this, and being in the center is kind of surreal. So this stream runs almost perfectly down the center of the mountain, and you can at points look straight up and see sky. just, thousands of feet up in the air. You know that this level is below ground level. But obviously, like I said, you can see that way up there are the pockets of light. You get your way through that and finally find your way to the ascent. That you sort of reach the base and it begins with like a sharp right turn. So it's not like you don't join the zigzag nicely. It's like you join the center and have to divot immediately to join the zigzag or face plowing straight into the side. And then it does for, again, another 600 or so feet. And it zigzags. The turns are every 50 feet or so. So the first one is like 25 foot. And then after that, it's 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. You know that, again, and as you're looking, this has been carved with magic. And you think, again, that's that purposeful. You can't just blast it up these, or you would have to be an extremely skilled driver to do so. The turns are almost 180. So they're almost full turning back on yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, that continues for the stretch. Again, as you're looking up this area, you think that the potential pitfalls that are natural, and again, you're not actually noticing any interference so far from any others. Obviously, you haven't gone like digging, but like you're not seeing any obvious or anything laid out or just very, very clear. But you think the potential pitfall here is that actually, whether purposeful or not, there are the magic has pulled the ground almost outwards. So at points, the very edges of the zigzag shelf could crumble away if struck. Again, because there's no weight from the vehicles, you're driving over it won't cause any issues. But you're actually seeing points where actually you're thinking, okay, if we like hit that, like, with like a spell or maybe with the ballista, with something, you could actually knock a chunk of the ground out.
And then that'll take
and
away
again, that takes away what supports the levitate, and they should just slide back down to the next level. Like it's not like you don't foresee it being like a down the cliffside, but it would have them facing the wrong way on the next level
down. They'd
have
to turn around and go again.
Yeah. So there are some potentials for that. But there's no, like I said, this is that you can tell the main obstacle here is the fact that is the zigzagging pathway.
To aid with the zigzagging, where those like 170-degree turns are on the innermost corner, because obviously like it's going up, and then where it comes back, it's basically like that. So there's this brief moment where there's elevation next to us. Eechie's going to, again with their burrowing, like create what rock climbers would kind of use as like a scoop hold, like a basin hold. But for us, it's going to be a carve out in so that we can shoot in from this angle and ride that all the way round rather than having to prematurely disconnect and have to right ourselves. I'm going to give us
making you nice little bolt holes for the grapple hooks.
Basically.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Nice and easy enough to do. Can you give me sleight of hand if you've got it, straight dexterity if you don't?
Oh well. Hey, and I did. 15 minus 1 to 14.
Okay, so you manage to be careful enough, and actually at first you sort of, when you dig the first like claw in, again, you can tell the stability of this isn't great, and you're almost having to be a little bit careful with the digging so as not to just dislodge that section
like
of
sandstone kind of vibe.
Yeah, and if you crunch it away wrong, also that gives you an indication and an extra little clue that this isn't, while it will work, there is potential as you make this climb that the grapples don't, like, it's brittle, so the grapple might go in and actually just pull, or it might just pull the whole the rock, like the rock might just crumble away, or you However, with the sort of, I'm going to sort of say, because you've been around the deserts and you've done the burrowing, you see a number of stalactites that are off to the side and stalagmites that are from the up above that weren't part of the magical crafting process, but they are. You're muted. Sorry. Tights. Oh, tights go up to the ground. Tights.
No,
Tights pull up.
stalactites hold tight,
Oh,
and stalagmites.
I was thinking about tights up.
Yeah.
It's all good. Either way, but basically there are sections at the turns, so not on the straights, but where they turn, where it meets the rock that they've manipulated, that there is unmanipulated actual like solid rock.
Yeah.
So I'll say that you can obviously note that and sort of you would know, like, it's not gonna like, obviously I won't tell you the mechanics of it, but basically it is in this section going to be riskier to use your grapple in the middle portions of the ramps up. But you should be pretty safe to use them on the corners. And obviously that is where you've dug your swing round areas anyway.
Yeah.
But it is worth remembering for the actual time of racing. And eventually you would, I mean, are you making your way interesting, actually. I think of all knowing this, you actually don't think the elk can go up this.
Oh.
This is made to be levitated on. It's not made to actually take structural. So Eechie can walk on it, and it's about okay. You think it could take a person's weight, but you don't think this would take a beast of burden or like a cart or anything like that.
Okay, good to know.
Because again, like the wizards that have made it know that it just needs to provide a surface for the levitate to repel off almost.
Yeah. Okay, I will dismount my elk and kind of like leave them there for a second while I make my way up.
Okay, so you eventually make your way all the way up, and as you make your way to the top, the final turn turns into the final like 50-foot stretch, and you can see this like beam of tunnel light. As you've made your way up, the pathway that's got firstly the zigzagging up pathway is about 50-foot wide. And as it hits this 50, and the opening in the mountainside stays that 50-foot wide. But as you get to it, it is just a shelf. And you stand out and you look out over, and essentially, I'll bring you back onto the main map. You are up here on the almost up the first slope of the peak that meets the crucible. However, from up here, you're looking down. Give me a perception.
Ooh, that's good. 9.
Okay, you look out over the city. Everything looks good. You sort of glance over to the area. I mean, there's loads of crowds there. You're quite surprised that like it looks quite like lively and energetic. You like almost like an actual concert rather than like a weaving contest. Yeah, it made me surprised for a moment, but
weavers are the true rock stars. Thank you very much.
yeah. And apparently so, because that crowd is moving. But yeah. But as you look out over, you don't actually. What sort of brings your attention away from that is you don't see any pathway down from here.
There. So just a shelf drop off, and then
And you can see a wide main road that you know is the final stretch, but it's like if you imagine again, you're up on this ping on the where the up of this section of slope, and it's just down here in the main street. There's nothing that actually joins it up. However, I would say that your prevailing perceptions, you are again noticing magical interference, like they've manipulated this to look like this. And as you sort of begin to like approach the edge, 5 foot before the edge, you actually meet a wall of force. Now, Eechie, you're like, as much as we can go down the route of somebody's put this here so everyone crashes, you don't think it's that. You actually think they're going to, like, there's something they're going to do here. And they're like, they've just either not done it yet, or it's going to be revealed, or...
This is the in construction sign.
Essentially, it just stops anybody that might be wandering the track, as you're such yourself, stepping straight off. And obviously, you haven't taken the official tour. While the guys have signed your team up, and you are now eligible for an official tour, they wanted to wait for your return. So you haven't officially had anything explained to you. You know it goes down to the crevasse, up the mountain, and down back to the city. But other than like the intricacies of it. And you've been to these things, you know, you've been to the combat days in the past. They always have surprise, you know, they'll unveil something and...
Okay. Currently, it's just like alluding to what could be just gun it and go for a jump. Oh my God.
But I would say you could definitely tell just from the magical editing that has been done that it looks like whatever comes out from here is going to stay about 50 foot wide.
Okay. From my walk through the crevasse, were there any more like upper cave bits or like holes? Obviously, I know that you said there are moments where you could look up, but where like these giant bats or what these larger than normal average bats could be like nesting?
You're not seeing anything. Give me... Actually, running the survival, you reckon that they definitely absconded this area around the time wizards were just like moving sections of earth and like, you know, just making the track as they wanted it. You imagine if they are, and they would maybe give you an indication that they probably are some, while big, maybe some sort of normal animal as opposed to, you know, an aberration or any other sort of thing that you would need to watch out for. Is the fact that they have cleared off. They're probably further down the mountainside, and probably might rotate back this way, but it doesn't seem like they're here now.
Cool. I'm not sure if there's anything I can do right now due to like the wall of force going forwards and such. So I think Ichi's gonna be happy with the like slight adjustments they've made to give us as much of an edge and start heading back to the group.
Okay. So you make your way down. It's maybe been just because, and as much as obviously that the time for it's always weird. I find this like the bits of D&D that are short are long for us, and the bits that are short for us are like really long. So it will have taken you a good few hours with
I've been walking and
digging. It's a good maybe 2.5. And then by the time you get back, you know that, and obviously you need to go back down the track. So by the time you sort of made your way back down, you go walking through the crevasse and back up. And as you exit the crevasse entrance, it's maybe about midday. and no, but maybe about 11ish. But it looks like it's coming to around that time.
Yeah.
And your attention would immediately be dragged out towards the desert as you feel a large rumble in the ground as the earth begins to move and shake, and you take a look outwards and can actually see some sort of large, weird blobbish like creature, almost like the same way a jet ski skims the water, like they're across the top of the earth. They're moving erratically. And give me a perception as you sort of look over this scene.
21. 15
Okay,
plus
so
6.
as it's sort of passing, you sort of getting the silhouette from and the sun is more directly above you, so you're sort of seeing this creature in the distance. It's maybe about 100 foot away from you. And for a second, you're looking and you're sort of looking closer and closer, and then a bright light makes you like, oh, geez. And as you look back, there is somebody atop it, like striking at it, and you can see these flashes of like divine energy. You would recognize the energy you are trained to use.
Yeah.
As you're watching, you would see there's almost like a final, and all together the mound of stuff just into the slate and gravel and just stops moving.
Eechie will like pat the elk and we'll just go into like a sudden burst and dash over.
Okay, so as you are approaching, you would be able to hear the sounds. You would be able to hear the sounds of like that, not like grunting in pain, but the grunting of exertion of somebody getting themselves up as you're approaching this mound of a creature. Give me a religion as you get closer to this.
Religion also rolled a 15 again, and religion is +0, so 15.
Okay, so you've never seen one in person, but you were taught about them around the time that you were looking into fire plane creatures. I can't remember where I put something. Around the time you were looking into the fire creatures, you also looked into creatures from the other planes, especially the elemental ones. As your Bruce often told you that many of the aligned planes can be complicated, as they often aren't as simple. They have their means and motives and emotions, and it tends to be more of a take it as you see it and figure out what the best move is. They do warn, however, that the elemental planes, while they still have these creatures, often have beasts made of fire and other things that will just act like a wild animal and should be, captured and re-released if possible. But often at times, though, Bruce would have explained that often at those times, those creatures are here, confused, scared, and you don't always. It always becomes a choice of, do I need to stop it before it hurts things? That was always the standard run for you and Bruce. That if we're in the middle of a city and it's burning down houses, even if it's just trying to escape, we need to stop it, and whether that's knocking it out. You would also have been taught that for a lot of those creatures, upon dying in our plane, they return back to their own. So it's often not seen as killing again, Bruce would have taught you that there are circumstances in which that isn't the case. You would have been taught that there are fey creatures that are native to you. Again, there are many planar creatures that came through centuries ago, and like millennia ago even, and are now native of this plane. And again, that's something that Bruce has sort of taught you the different signs to that. A Fey born of this plane might still have the whimsical nature and the feel, but doesn't always have the air of chaos magic that some of the Feywild born do. So you've always been taught to like look for these signs, and if it's very, but after that, very much as much of your order, if it is deemed that they are summoned here or they are here in a way that it is not killing, it is banishing, it is seen as a banishment to destroy their material plane body, and to send them back. As you begin to approach, the creature does begin to sort of dissolve into sand and like blowing and wisping away. And you see standing up, and I do need a moment, sorry, because I can't even remember where I put the specific note. Yes, I found it. No, that's not. So you see, standing before you is a large Goliath, armored in full plate, only missing the helmet, standing nearly about 7.5 feet tall, and with tattoos and markings that you recognize as one of, you don't recognize specifically which, but it's the stylings of the tribes out in the far west, so on the far side of the Xanagaeth Desert. Dressed in plate armor and bearing a shield and wielding a longsword. You see as they stand, give me a perception, as you definitely recognize a member of your order, and they initially, as the creature's dissolving between you, they initially sort of look, but you would notice as a fighter, like their body tenses for a second as like, wait a minute, and then as their eyes flick over you, they relax again and say, well, what are you doing out here, Squire? I did not send for help.
I got a dirty 20 on my roll. No, I wasn't sent to help. I'm on my own journey. Sorry, is everything okay here?
Yeah, sorry. I thought maybe the order had dispatched your master. You say you're on your own journey.
Yes.
One moment, sorry. He stands up to full attention. So with the dirty 20, you see that the armor is very well kept. So are all the weapons and such, as you've been taught. The armor is very much in the same style as what you wear. One thing that would and I'll leave it to you. So what you think of it in terms of what each believes of it. But so the symbol that you see on the chest and the shield is that eye symbol that it's almost that embossed eye. However, whereas yours is the sort of embossed block style eye, theirs, all of the edges stretch out into almost like beams of light emitting from the eyes. So if you imagine it like the tops and bottoms, there's these stretching, and you can see that on the breastplate they have been colored gold, so that it literally looks like golden beams of light shooting from that central eye. They sheathe their sword and greet in the proper fashion as they say, I am Sir Arthur Grant. Jesus. I am Sir Arthur Grant. So that is Artur.
Artur.
And then Garant is Garrant. I do not recognize you as your is it I'm confused. Normally you would be with your master. Well,
Yes, sorry. I am Ichi. Ichi River. Oh God, what's my need to pronounce it
No
properly.
one can say names tonight.
Ichi Riava.
Yeah.
There we go. I am Ichi Riava. My master was sadly slain, but they with their like final moments, they quested me with completing their journey.
They do look sad as you tell them, and they might I ask what they were called?
Oh God, no! I literally just had it open. My master was Sir Bruce Galahorn.
You would see a flicker of recognition, but also roll me an insight as you see that recognition. The other thing you would notice as you're sort of looking over them, and you see that they almost like almost like in exasperation they roll their head backwards and they sigh deeply of like you can tell that it's not necessarily that they're grieving because they really really knew him. It's almost just like another brother, like that sort of and they definitely recognized him. What was your insight?
13, 10 plus 3.
You only pick up the recognition, so you can tell that they definitely know the name. And then, like I said, they sort of roll their head back and they sort of almost like curse under their breath. However, with that 20 that you saw earlier, you can see deep black veins, sort of almost it's giving you the impression of like poison or infection that is running up the neck and up to the side of the ear. They don't seem bothered or impeded, but they just I have not seen Bruce in a long time. I was a squire myself when I last encountered him. It was said he had left for his own quest. This quest met him with a fateful end then.
I'm sorry, so he left this like where that this guy knows him from to go on his own quest. Is that
that's what he's been told. He says so the last time that Arthur saw Bruce, Arthur was a squire.
Leaving.
So and you would sort of know this. Bruce, while you haven't met many others, you had sort of been etiquetted on or taught the etiquette of how squires are supposed to act when two knights are interacting, for example. Like it's very much you're not supposed to really you watch and learn and watch how they strategize and how they come up with things, but you're not really supposed to like interject and say anything. So you imagine that this guy had no actual dealings with Bruce, but the last time they saw them at all was when they were a squire. I would say from your perception, this guy looks maybe early 40s.
Okay.
So you're thinking potentially a good 20 years, 30 years since he was a squire. So it's a good chunk of time ago. But yes, the last time my master at the time told me that Bruce had left for his own quest. Many of the order do. This is not always as strong as it used to be, but I am sorry to hear of you.
Well, I'm not sure of what personal quests they would have left on at the time that you last saw them, but they set up. Perhaps that quest was to help establish a further connection of the order. For he trains me in one of the subsections of the order that he developed. He had his own section. Sadly, there weren't many who would join the banner, but I did, and he was a wonderful master and taught me many things about the order. And hopefully, one day I will also become a full Iris Knight as well. But sadly, although he was very complimentary of my training, obviously never got to the point of knighting me themselves.
They're not. It can be very hard for a squire to complete their first task, and you know this in terms of almost not. And again, it's not described to you as defeating your first monster, but completing your first actual quest, as it were. Almost your initial encounters with Dante were supposed to have been that.
Yeah.
Almost upon, saving and, solving the problem that the fire creature was causing. That's when they were going to take you to
Yeah.
anointment. They take a seat on a nearby rock, and you see they swing around their backpack, and they pull out some rations and sort of offer you some.
Oh, thank you. I wouldn't want to take any rations for you. I do have some myself, but thank you for the offer.
You're welcome to take a seat. How have you been dealing since your master left? And as he's talking, you would see he like reaches to the inside of his armor and pulls forth a small bottle that's on a chain round his neck. Uncorks it and takes a deep swig as you answer.
Things have been going well. Return to this city to do a little bit of research myself, and also to check in on a previous job that that Bruce was assigned. I figured as I was in the area, it was only right as a member of the order to check in on those who have needed our help before, just to make sure that the issues that caused them to need us were still being maintained. Luckily, everything is going well in the city in terms of that front.
And you sort of, as you look to them, you notice that they're smiling, and they at ease, Squire. You do not need to fully explain. I mean, yourself. How are you dealing since the? I'm not asking about your task or your mission. You lost a master. That can be hard.
It's been strange, difficult. There are times when I have questions and no one to turn to ask them, and that can be frustrating. But I suppose also helping me develop in trying to figure them out myself, not jumping to any conclusions, but making sure they are well thought. But it was also difficult losing a friend. Bruce was a wonderful master and a great mentor, but was also someone who I looked up to and held close. I suppose it's, and like Ichi kind of like really takes a moment. I don't think I've really stopped to think about that until you asked, honestly.
They nod and they say, I don't mean to assume, but I take it that Bruce fell in during a mission.
That they did.
And that this last quest is dealing with the beast that caused the issue.
Yes.
Then I think you are on the right path. You have made it this far. Many squires do not even leave the area they're in, their own forts, as it were. I imagine that there are things that Ruth did not tell you. For who did you? There's a lot. Most importantly, how are you? Are you dealing with any signs of my brain's just going on. Are you Have you dealt yet with any of the signs of the shadow?
I don't believe I'm familiar.
You would see a flicker of like what? And then almost just like I would be surprised if Bruce would leave out such teachings, but they roll back their sleeve, and you now see that the veins that were on their neck have receded and seem to no longer be there. But along their arm, there is like dark pulsing veins, and I assume that Bruce told you of the devastation at Fort Augur.
Does that ring a bell at all?
Yes, so you were told by your master that so he told you that right at the beginning, the order, when he joined the order, things had been really, really great. In the beginning, the order had a main fortress, Fort Augur, where the leading members, there were 3 voted in members known as the archivists, basically watched over the fort and directed the Iris Knights in their path. You were taught that back then that they had powerful devices that would detect potential planar dangers, and that they would almost direct and guide the knights that were out in the world to places that needed protection. You know that however, an interesting note as you're sort of thinking through what Bruce told you, he never told you a location. Told you the name, but he never like pinpointed it on a map or told you where in the world it was. He just told you that it existed. During a night of Galaris, the fort was attacked, and Bruce himself was not at the fort at the time. And even you could tell at the time there was almost frustration in how confusing the stories and reports were. There were reports of every type of planar being, like to the point that Bruce even questioned the truth of it. Apparently there were devils and demons working in hand with Fae and Celestial, and every type of, almost like every planar creature was working against them. And in one fell swoop, the fort was collapsed, and they lost their archivists and their items that allowed them to detect. For what you would have been told about that, Ruth would have always ended that, if you ever asked what happened afterwards or pressed about it, they always said that the Iris Knights had become very lost since that encounter. And you knew that there wasn't one central organization anymore, that it was, like you said, there's sects and there's forts all over that still run the banner and still fight the good fight, but it's a lot harder now for them to keep that running communication. But you don't know anything modern or like current. But these days, after the battle and after everything was lost, those of us that anoint feel, it's hard to describe, but the deepest, darkest sadness I have ever felt in my life. It is like a black hole in the center of my chest. The loss of the heart of our order. Every night feels it. And when we use our abilities too often, the shadow, and he again shows you his arm, and you see the almost fading now as again you see these ones receding. I am surprised Bruce would not have told you about this, because once you anoint, you will have to either learn how to create, or there are places that you can buy the tincture. And he shows again that bottle that he has on a chain around his neck. This allows us to fight back. It is not permanent, and unfortunately, many knights that anoint and take up the cause eventually die to the shadow itself.
No, I wasn't told anything of the shadowing, as you call it.
You would pick up a bit of disappointment, almost not like disappointment, like an older being disappointment, but almost like somebody they looked up to. They're like very, very shocked that it's almost cruel to have like not told you this and let you get this far down the line. Almost that sort of look.
I suppose maybe it was an aspect of hope. Maybe the next generation of Iris Knights would be able to avoid the affliction. I never saw Bruce dealing with any clear signs or taking any concoctions themselves, but I suppose that's just out of fear of, or maybe even fear that upon learning what could happen to me, I might leave the order. Obviously, I wouldn't have. Understanding this does fill me with a little bit of anxiety, yes, but the things that the order stand for are more important than that.
And he sighs and nods and he says, "No, that is why the old fool should have told you the truth. They probably hid there. I understand that it might have been out of care, but I cannot shake myself to agree with it." They, as you're sort of beginning to respond, there's almost like another rumble further in the distance that they prick their ear to. And they, sorry, they look back.
Do you know what's happening? These shakes have been happening for a few days now.
Oh yes,
I see you've managed.
Do not worry. The current Prime Minister, Alar Moonshadow, has hired me to deal with. There are some zones in the area, and you would recognize that was the creature. They are gem eating earth monsters, basically. They only care about devouring gems, and he would just they crop up every now and again. They are quite a common issue around the Zikar. They especially like it.
Of course, yeah, they've like gravitated towards it. It's energy.
They're moving through the earth causes the earthquakes. From the sounds of that, there is one more, but I have the energy. Do not worry.
Well, please do not let me halt you any further in your job.
He says, I will be out of the city for a few more days, but on the final day of the festival, we are me and my group. They are still currently hunting, and again, he sort of takes another glance out towards where the rumble was. We will be back in the city. We usually just stay at the Bloody Banner, though we might find something quieter with the festival. But you are welcome to come and eat and drink with us.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you very much. Myself and my compatriots are also staying at the Bloody Banner currently. We are currently staying at the Bloody. We haven't moved.
No,
we
moved
to the Rusty Bucket.
Yeah.
I am familiar of where the Rusty Banner is. My compatriots and I were there at one point.
The bloody banner. You said the rusty banner.
The Rusty Banner. that old chestnut, that place over there. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, my guy.
But he's like, so yes, if no pressure. I understand if you need to leave to continue your quest, but if you have any questions or if you need any assistance,
of course. Before you do leave, how many are in your current troop?
We only have two. I am the only knight. We, however, have an alchemist and a priest that travels with us. I myself have two squires, so the five of us in total. But we are the members of our fort that travel. Our fort, if you are traveling northwards, you should visit in maybe there as well. Of Fort Askar, Askar.
Askar.
And they would very hastily sort of roll out a map. Actually, no, they would probably draw it move it in there, and they would sort of place 2 rocks, and you say, if the Mornell Peaks are here, there is the mountain range up in this area at the very top of the peaks. So if again, I'll move you quickly onto right on the edge of the wastelands to the north. Our fort is situated just on the coastline, between the coastline and the mountains. You cannot miss it. It is the only building up in that area. If you happen to be traveling through there, feel free to use my name, and my old master, Ergon. That's Errrgon. He knew Bruce fairly well. If maybe even has some stories for you.
Thank you very much. I will.
Again,
certainly-
as you're saying this, the earth sort of rumbles again,
Yeah.
and they stand and they click, and you would see them casting summon a fine steed as they summon in their own. You see they summon a warhorse, it's an almost completely white warhorse with a black mane and black tail, and almost with like cloud, like the back and neck and mane area is all like cloudy gray, like almost like ink spilling into white, as they mount and till we meet again, Eechie.
Yes. Till we meet again, Sarata.
They will nod and begin riding off into. You see them heading straight out towards the source of the rumblings, which you can tell, like, you were getting aftershock tremors. Like he's going to be going a good distance.
Yeah.
It's not just over the next ridge.
Eechie just kind of like watches for a minute, like almost in awe, kind of like of finally seeing another night. Right, and they'll hop back onto the elk, turn it.
Okay.
Let's go.
And you begin making the long journey back into the city. This is the end of part 1. Part 2 airs Sunday 7 PM GMT, or will be linked in the top right of your screen now. Thank you for watching, and roll well.